Thank you. Senator Utke, Senate File 456. Why don't you go ahead and give us a brief description of your bill, please?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, members. You know what, Mr. Chair, if it's okay with you, we have joining us via Zoom, Sebastian Mesa, and I think there's a time constraint to that, so if we could get the testimony first, we'd make sure we get that in, and then we can finish up with the amendment once we get to that point.
Let me just ask, this is the first stop for the committee, for the bill, right? We have an A1 amendment for the effective date, be in the nature of an author's amendment.
That is correct.
So Senator Luber moves adoption of the A1 author's amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion prevails, the amendment is adopted. All right, Sebastian Mesa, thank you for joining us. Welcome to the committee. Can you hear us all right?
I hear you, Senator, very poorly. I was hearing you well just a moment ago.
All right, well, I should turn the
There we
mic
go.
on here. It'd be easier. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can, Senator. Thank you.
Okay, we can hear you. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what you'd like us to know about the bill?
Perfect. Well, thank you, Senators, for the opportunity to speak to you, and for Senator Utke for sponsoring SF 456. Essentially, what this bill does is something I think that's been needed for many years now. As this committee is aware, Minnesota, other states around the country are grappling with an opioid crisis and a crisis of substance abuse. We have in our Minnesota statutes important work by our legislature in Statute 152-137 that recognizes the danger of methamphetamine in its production and rightly seeks to protect children and vulnerable adults who cannot protect themselves from its hazardous and harmful effects. However, in recent years, the introduction of fentanyl to our communities has proven that drug to be even more dangerous and destructive than methamphetamine. According to some research from the University of Minnesota School of Public Health, fentanyl overdose deaths in our state have roughly tripled between 2019 and 2022. That drug, as I'm sure you senators are aware, is far more toxic, far more dangerous than methamphetamine. Even slight exposure to it can cause seriously harmful health effects, death, overdose, and that can be through just contact with the skin, inhaling a powder or dust. We recently had a case here in Aitkin County where a young child, unfortunately, through the negligence of his caretakers, was exposed to fentanyl, had to be given 3 Narcan doses, resuscitated, airlifted to Minnesota Children's, and had it not been for those first responders, the quick actions of law enforcement, and obviously the medical attention that that child received, we would have had another tragedy. I think that we should not wait for these tragedies to repeat themselves before we update Section 152-137 to recognize the dangers of fentanyl. And so I'd ask the committee members to please recognize the thoughtful work that SF 456 attempts to accomplish. And again, thank you to Senator Utke for the opportunity to speak to you all and for sponsoring this bill.
And you may have said this already, but could you go ahead and just identify your formal position as well?
Yes, of course, Senator. I am an assistant county attorney for Aitkin County. My elected is James Ratz, and he also supports and endorses this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, just for the record, you do have in your committee packet a letter from County Attorney Ratz in support of this proposal as well. And just so you know, because There is a possible fiscal implication. We are waiting for fiscal analysis to come back about possible bed counts as we go through the process for all of our proposals for new crimes. So the intent will be to lay this measure over until at least we get that. All right, are there any questions for Assistant County Attorney Mesa? Thank you. You seem to have covered the territory well. Thank you for joining us. You're welcome to stay on and watch the rest of the hearing if you wish, or you're free to signal off and do your other work. Thank you for joining us today.
I'll do that. Thank you, Senators. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that wish to testify in connection with this bill? Not seeing anyone. Senator Utke, thank you for pointing out that Assistant County Attorney Mesa has some other work to do here, but now's your chance. What would you like to say about your proposal today?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and yeah, we knew we had a limited number of times. I'm glad we were able to get them on, and actually, just to clarify, I think that the letter that you all have in your packets, like I've got two, was actually signed by Sebastian. You know, the top of the letterhead does list the county attorney, but so they're in this together. But a little background, this all started back in late 2023 when I first got the first email from Sebastian pointing out this where a statute just kind of dropped the ball on fentanyl and needing to kind of refresh our statute because of what fentanyl has done in the last number of years. And so this brings it up in line with the methamphetamines and all of those things that we've dealt with over the last handful or dozen plus years that have created a major problem for us. We don't have to go any further than our TV screens and look at what's happening across our country and you know, the topic of Canada and Mexico, what's driving that topic today? It's fentanyl coming across our borders. So it is hugely important, and that's what led us to this bill that's before you. And I hope that we can see progress with this, and it'd be nice to put this in place because the county attorneys are just asking for this tool in their toolbox to be able to prosecute the people in the proper manner and also protect those that are being harmed from this bad product. So with that, I would stand for any questions.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Utke, for bringing this bill forward. It's very timely. Just a week or so ago, there was a child in St. Paul that had been exposed to fentanyl because of parental use. And so I really appreciate the bill and would like to be a co-author. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Utke, I thought about the statement that Mr. Mesa mentioned about the tripling of fentanyl deaths since 2019. Do you have any statistics of, say, in 23 or just last year, how much more fentanyl deaths have occurred?
Senator Utke.
Mr. Chair and Senator Anderson, I do not. I've actually only got the information that you've got in front of you and which Sebastian read from because, you know, that's the most current I've got. I'm sure there's stuff out there. I just haven't gone digging for it. But I'm sure it's unfortunately done nothing but increase. And that's what we're hoping to head that off and turn this thing around.
Mr. Chair.
Senator Anderson.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Senator Utke, if you have a chance to talk with Senator, or if I was just with the Assistant County Attorney Mesa, if he's got any other information to add to what he's given to us as far as for 2023, this just goes through 2022. I'd like to know how much more affects as far as deaths that have been contributed to fentanyl. That would be a good avenue. So thank you.
Okay, I'll dig into that.
So members, my understanding is that since June of 2023, so now almost 2 years ago, the fatal overdoses from fentanyl and other street drugs have fallen nationally by over 21%. So no doubt fentanyl is a devastating drug and is a very serious threat to public safety, but we should at least be clear-eyed about we've got the trend going in the right direction, and a very small proportion of fentanyl comes over the border from Canada. The rest of it tends to come through legal ports of entry brought in by U.S. citizens who are trafficking it. So just since the topic was brought up by the testifier about the borders and the impact there, that's not really the subject for the discussion here today, but I want to make sure the record was clear on that. Senator Cronin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. According to the Department of Health dashboard, in 2023, there was over 1,000 deaths caused by fentanyl.
No doubt it's a serious problem. Any further discussion on this bill before we lay it over? All right. Thank you, Senator Utke. Appreciate you being here today and bringing the bill forward.
Thank you very much.
Senator Anderson. Yes, we adopted the amendment as an author's amendment at the very beginning.